Welcome to Straight Talk with Alyssa Thorne, and I have with me today Kit Cummings. And I'm really excited because today we're going to be talking all about peace. Actually, I love his tagline where peace is the new dope. And we're going to be talking about 40 days to peace and a bunch of other things revolving about interconnectedness. For me, it's interconnectedness. We're all interconnected. And so welcome, Kit.
Welcome, but I got to correct you real quick. It's hope is the new dope. Hope.
I knew there was.
Come on, man. I mean, it flows so much better. Hope is the new dope.
Hope is, yes, that does sound much better. The other way does sound a little more, yeah. Gotcha.
Well, peace is the new dope too. It just doesn't flow as well. That's all.
True. I like your version better. So first, I would love to ask and for you to share with the audience, what was your inspiration behind starting this program?
Well, I have been, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. Very excited, heard great things. I've been looking forward to this. I've been involved in the field of personal development and teaching, coaching, training, public speaking for 25 years. Most of that career has been around nonprofit charity service work. And that's taken me a lot of places, gotten to travel a lot, but I love to speak, love to teach, love to coach and train, and love to develop people. And I'm big time into that and have been for a long time, about the same amount of time, personal development. But I was invited into a prison for a weekend event in 2009. And something just happened. I connected. I'd never been into a prison before, luckily, could have. But I went there for a weekend. I didn't know it was Georgia's toughest prison. I didn't know it was a violent, gang-controlled, very dangerous prison. I just knew it was a prison, and I connected with some men in there, and I kept going back to serve. And then I started teaching just on a volunteer basis, and one thing led to another, and it's evolved into this, the great work of my life.
So now a lot of people are like, why do you always ask this question? Because for me, I get the most crazy stories when I ask this question, or inspirational stories, whichever way you want to look at it, is the title behind your program. Because normally people would say, well, you say 40 days, and most other programs, to get clean or to change a habit is 30 days. What was your divine inspiration for that particular title?
That's a great question. Well, the overall arching, the organization is called the Power of Peace Project. And it's basically the concept that power comes from peace. And a lot of times people think of peace as something that's soft and weak and passive. And yet the great peacemakers in this world were very powerful men and women. And their power just came from a very deep place. And so nonviolence is very strong. It's forceful, but it's peaceful. And so anyway, we developed 40-day projects. 40 was a number that I just love. I'm a faith-based guy. My service career has involved faith-based organizations. 40 is a number that people can relate to. And I figured if 30 is good, 40 is better. And so our projects, we set out to create new habits and patterns and pathways in the brain, and helping people to learn to use their energy differently. And the brain is a learning machine. It learns whatever we feed it and whatever we practice, definitely what we repeat. The brain is designed to learn and develop shortcuts and lay down track and help it get you to where you went today easier and quicker tomorrow. And so I figured if you do anything 40 days in a row, you establish some very strong set pathways and new habits. And that works around addiction, overcoming, harmful habits, pathways in the brain, ways that we grew up, things, hang-ups, and things that are keeping us from being free. And so that's where the 40-day platforms came from. It wasn't too much to overwhelm a participant, but it was enough to create some lasting change.
So I have a handy dandy little app. I don't know if you follow numerology or numbers. I love numbers. I see 444 all the time, 333. So I've actually plugged in 40. And this is, by the way, from Doreen Virtue's number book. And it says, God and the angels are surrounding you with heavenly love and protection.
Nice.
So that's what 40 means. So the minute you said that there was a reason for 40, I had to.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna so steal that. And the funny thing about it is not too long ago, my daughter will tell you this. I started seeing 222 everywhere all the time. It was ridiculous. I was being stalked by this number 222. I'd see it on signs, and then I'd see it on the clock, and then I'd see it in the paper, whatever I was looking at. I'd get up in the middle of the night, it was 222. You know, I'd get a phone call, it was 222. You know, I'd stop a video we were watching, and it was stopped at 2 hours and 22 minutes. And so finally I Googled it, and I like numerology and everything. And I looked at it, and it was 222 is the number of angels. And it was your angels are trying to get your attention, trying to get you to stay on focus, that you're right on your soul's purpose and don't deviate. And so, you know, to me, it was like every time I see a 222, angels are tapping me on the shoulder, trying to get my attention. Well, I turned my 16-year-old daughter onto it, and we've made a game of it, and we see 222 everywhere. And then we start looking for angels. It's so much fun. So now 40.
I have a challenge. I have a challenge for you and your daughter. So first of all, I encourage you for your daughter and you, get the Hay House app, and it's the angel numbers 101 during virtue. So you're going to love 222. So 222 says, trust that everything is working out exactly as it's supposed to, with divine blessings for everyone involved. Let go and have faith. So I don't know if you've seen the new, there's several books out, like E Squared, MC, or E Squared by Pam Grau. Okay. So as you know, what we focus on expands. You, like I would say, a little bit of self-development. I don't like the word junkies, but you know what I'm saying. We're very much into self-development awareness. Junkies. So, yeah, I know, it's kind of like, what an absurd, and that's what everyone says, and I don't understand they want to use that word for. For me, it's like, I just want to be, I'm constantly wanting to evolve. I'm constantly wanting to learn, because I know there's always something out there, new technology, new pathways, new whatever. Absolutely. And so I'm always looking at, you know, as I know, T.R. Vecker and all these, you know, speakers say, whatever you focus on expands. And so that game you're doing with your daughter, that's why it keeps on appearing. So you're saying we're going to make it into a game. We're going to look for 222. So what happens? You see more of 222. I would say the challenge would be, tell your daughter, let's focus on 444, which means being surrounded by the angels, and see how often 444 comes.
Now, you'll dig this though. Okay, so I'm sitting in the middle of nowhere, Indiana, or somewhere on one of my tours, and I'm sitting in a Cracker Barrel, right, by myself, hanging out, just kind of vegging. And all of a sudden I get a text from my daughter, and it's another 222 sighting, and it's something obscure and everything. So I'm like, what? And so I send one back, and I'm sitting there by myself, and I'm thinking to myself, is this just a mental thing? Because I know how the brain is designed to find what you tell it is relevant. You know, the reticular activating system, you find what you look for, what you focus on expands. And I was sitting there having this conversation with myself. I wonder if it's just a brain exercise, or is there something really behind the scenes operating here? And I'm not kidding, Carly. As I was thinking that, this wonderful Cracker Barrel waitress walks by my table, stops by my table, and yells to the front, "We've got 2 on 22, just like that. And I thought, okay, now that is not me finding, that was like out of nowhere. I started laughing. I called my daughter. So, you know, something more. That
was the universe bringing that affirmation for you that.
Yes.
Exactly. This isn't us. This is, and that's why I always tell people, it's like, so many times we need to see A plus B equals C. How about letting go of having to know where something comes from and being open to the possibility that we are just this physical being in this physical world, on this physical planet. And when we actually choose to be open, things will actually come in exactly when we need them, the exact information we need at that very given moment. And so many times we so sabotage ourselves because we get frustrated with the how, the why, all these things. Now, the one caveat to this, though, and I know you know this, is The Secret. Although I love the movie and it did open people's minds to the fact that there's spirituality and a lot more out there than we think, what it did not address is that I can't just sit here with my hands wide open and do nothing. I can't just go, please give me 222 and it shall arrive. It does take the intention. It does take the alignment with that intention, and it takes you actually taking actionable action steps.
Absolutely.
For example, in creating your program, you had an idea, you didn't sit on it, you didn't say, okay, God, give me the program, please, or angels or spirit, whatever that is to you. You actually went out and implemented it.
Totally agree. And really, I think if you do understand that when an idea, an inspiration, a revelation, something comes to you, and it is, I believe, the universe evolves, and it's always constantly figuring out how to create more life and to do life better. And so I believe this, that when an idea comes to me and it's a moment of clarity and I see it, if I don't act upon it, then it'll go to somebody else and they will. I mean, the universe is going to birth what is best for this, you know, evolution of our humanity, and also to heal the planet. So I'm in Philadelphia and I'm speaking, this is 2010. And I speak at this big event. It goes great. I'm standing in the back. I'm sweaty. I'm high. I'm just like in the moment, you know, that's just been a great event, big crowd. And all of a sudden, the idea came to me, and it was a picture of Dr. King was put up on a big screen. And I was present, and I was aware, and I was ready to receive this idea. And it was so clear. It was, why don't we try a peace movement at Georgia's most dangerous prison on Dr. King's birthday? And I was already into 40 days, you know, it's like, man, we could do it for 40 days, but it was right around the corner from his birthday. And I thought, why not? And so I had this little test group. And I'm talking, these are life sentence inmates, young gang members. I mean, it was perfect. White, black, brown. And I got them every Tuesday, and we did whatever we wanted to do anyway. So I tried this experiment, and magic happened. And see, the point you're making is, I didn't just have the idea and say, man, that's a good idea. And then, you know, 2 years from now go, you know what? I remember when I had that idea, but I didn't do anything with it. I got on the plane back to Atlanta, and I started it was flowing. The ideas, the steps, the process, how we would do it, it just kind of arrived. And when I got back to the prison that next week, I began working on it. I didn't know what was going to happen, but what happened has brought me 5 years later to where, you know, this has become a movement, and there's literally thousands of inmates in prisons in different parts of the country, and now students in high schools and communities that are actively involved in a peace movement for their generation. And we're seeing prisons where violence has dropped 50, 60, 70%. Because they're, you know, signing these peace pledges, wearing these wristbands, taking a stand for peace, and bullies are becoming peacemakers. Gang leaders are starting to use their influence for peace. It's crazy. And it was that one idea, but you're right. I had to take a measurable step toward my dream before the universe was just going to magically show up and do what it was going to do.
So something you said there, I think I also want to point out. You said, you know, they're starting to become like these peace ambassadors, if you will. You also mentioned the wristband. And I think for people that are either, you need that extra little piece, I can't explain it, but having something, whether it be, you know, a cross that means something to you, or I have this particular ring that has 3 words on it engraved that are constantly something I just want to be constantly reminded of, which is love, hope, and faith, right? Yeah. Or I have a few tattoos like you do, and they're a story for me. They're storytelling. There's constant reminders of the journey that I've been through to where I am now. Yeah. And I think those wristbands for some people, especially if it's revolved around something that's meaningful to them. Just for example, in AA, they have the chips.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what that symbology is. Could be the chip, or it could be a ring, or it could be the cross. That wristband for some people is so impactful because it's a tactile. And that's why I'm bringing this up. We are multi-sensory beings, and we don't get, and that's why I was like, oh, when we couldn't get the audio to work and technology was against us for those few minutes, I wanted to wait, because I get that people seeing your face is very different than listening to a podcast and just a voice, right? Right. And we're worried about tripping over each other. I can't see your lips. When do I keep on hearing him talk? And I want to say something, but I know if you see my excited face, you're going to slow down and let me talk, right? Yeah. And now, like, our energy and our body language, when my editor then pulls the voice out and creates the podcast, that podcast is so much richer, has so much more energy and vibrancy, that the people can actually hear our emotions and our body language, right? So it's the same thing with wearing like a wristband or whatever that symbol is. It's something that's tactile, so it connects the neurons in the brain to, I have this habit, I have this thing that I'm doing now on a consistent basis. This is my constant tactile reminder of that I choose to wake every day and do something that's peaceful.
Absolutely. Yeah, very well said. It was an experiment and it was a risk. And I had a warden in a prison in Michigan that allowed me to test this experiment. And here was the thought is that they had the journal that I created. They signed the peace pledge. They set out to live by 7 radical principles for 40 days, journal, get together in small groups and discuss, sit down with their enemies, Crips and Bloods, Christians and Muslims, gangster disciples and Latin kings. I mean, for those that don't know, these are dangerous gangs in a tough prison environment. And so they've adopted the principles. They're doing it together. They're working through things, but I wanted there to be a symbol, something that they could put on that was one, it was a reminder to themselves every day as they looked down of the commitment they had made. But also it was something that unified the group together so that when the Crip looked at the blood, and they're both wearing the wristband, they knew that they were doing something together for peace. And that was big. But it also showed the whole prison yard that there goes one of those peacemakers. And I wondered, and this was a risk, would they be singled out and targeted? But the opposite happened. I started seeing that these guys that were wearing these wristbands were given a new level of respect, because I don't care how hard you are or how bad you are or how tough things are in that prison or in that school, in that neighborhood, everybody respects a peacemaker, whether they admit it or not. They just, because we're all born to live in peace, we know it. And even though we're not living that way, when somebody steps up and has the guts to say, I'm a peacemaker, they get a pass. And I started seeing that. And then it became a badge of courage, because in these prisons where we would do phase 1 and 2 and 3, you had guys walking through the yard with 4 and 5 wristbands on their arm, which meant that they were not only peacemakers, but they were veterans of the peace movement. And they started getting held up to a higher standard. And so we took that concept into the schools. And in the same way that back in the day when you were wearing a WWJD bracelet, you couldn't go cussing some kid out with a WWJD, or everybody would say, you hypocrite, take that wristband off. Or if you were wearing a Lance Armstrong Live Strong yellow thing and that you were, hating on some weak girl, it's like, come on, man, this is a movement for people who are ill. This became one of those where officers and teachers started holding the participants to a higher standard because you were wearing the wristband. And I'll say this last little story up. Many stories like this, but one gang enforcer came to me and said, I was going to kill a guy and I'd gone all the way across the prison to get him. And right before I went into where he lived, I looked down and saw that wristband, and I decided I couldn't do it because I couldn't do it with the wristband on. So I went all the way back across the yard to my cell. And by the time I got there, I decided I didn't want to do it, and he said, this wristband saved a life, and so I was like, wow. I mean, these guys, this is so important to them. I never knew, I never knew it was going to become this, but kind of crazy.
I think too, it's because you gave something to them to hold on to. When you're, I know actually I've worked and consulted with some COs, and COs, for people that don't know, are correctional officers within the prison and what they deal with. And, obviously there's corruption on both sides. There's corruptions inside the prisons, and they're worried about shanks, which are, by the way, things people use to kill people. And then there's dirty COs, as much as there's, like you said, the different gangs and all the stuff that's going on. And that guy obviously was looking to, have the shank and go use the terminology of shanking someone, right? So what I think you gave them, though, is by giving them something that was tangible, since there is so little, by the way, you and I know a little bit more about prison, what goes on inside. They don't have a lot of stuff they're allowed to keep because of threats of shanking people and or of hanging themselves. So there's a lot of things that are taken away from a lot of people that are in there, whether it be shoelaces, sheets, depending on what spaces they're in or what what I'm talking about, right? Sure, so there's always different things. However, having the permission for them to be able to wear those, which I'm sure was a big thing, working through that, because again, they don't allow you just to have anything, because it can be made into something or used for something. Correct. So you had to go through all these barriers. So the fact that that you got them in there, 2, that you got them to wear something and it was allowable, and it was something that was like, okay, yes, you're given, like the shirt, you're given this band, and yes, you have the right to wear it. I think that extra piece is something they were allowed to have, and it was okay to have. I think that adds into that respectability, because again, there's only a certain amount of people that were allotted these. And in some way, the ones that don't have them, if they want to have that,
Absolutely.
Everyone wants something somebody else doesn't have. They have to work and do something to earn that.
That you totally understand. You've done either really, really good homework on this, or you're just totally intuitive, probably a little bit of both.
I get that. I mean, my whole background is studying psychology, theology, and I actually, by the way, used to work in group homes with Down syndrome, autistic, but behavioral, really bad, biting, kicking, punching. So I've learned how to study lots of behavioral psychology, everything, and I also grew up overseas, so I've been exposed to, I left the States when I was like 5, came back when I was 14, all over Central South America. So I was constantly exposed to different cultures and violence, and violence resolution. So you and I, it's like one of those things where you have to be educated. You have to choose to want to be educated. I can't work with people. You can't work with people at that level, and I'm talking about issues. People have a lot of issues, crime, whether it be abuse. My background, I grew up with a lot of abuse, so that was another reason why I chose to go on those paths, to find out more and more and more so I could change my own life and cut the strings.
Right.
Was because in order to do that, you have to be massively intuitive. You have to be massively, almost fearless, because if you show any fear, like an animal, right, you are going to get hurt.
They know it. Absolutely.
When you go into those spaces, you can't be in that space.
Nope, you can't fake that. These guys my antenna has become so much more refined and sensitive here in the free world, because they've taught me that. They live in a place where they better have a very fine-tuned antenna, the hairs on the back of the neck, just the sense of when something's about to happen, a vibe that doesn't feel right, a person. And that's true, but you can't fake it. I mean, if you are full of crap when you're in there, they know it. They have a meter, a BS meter that goes up. And so you better be there for the right reason. And if you are authentic and you are there to help them, they have this unbelievable devotion and love for you that I find rare in the free world. They will absolutely die for you if you believe that you're there to help them, because that's very rare for them. They don't have people that could be doing other things to come in, and they know that I'm not an employee of the prison. They know that I'm there because this is my life's work, my calling. And it also, a couple of things is, one, you were right on time with the wristband. It means something to them, and it symbolizes something to them, to the rest of the prison. It also gives, everybody wants peace, but they live in a place where they're afraid to show that they don't want to be weak. This gives them a reason to be peaceful, and it's got something that it's edgy and cool. It's a program that is able to attract guys that won't come to other programs. Gang leaders rarely come to any program. They come to this. These rival gangs and even rival religious factions don't come to programs together. They do with this. It's very hard to get an inmate or even a kid in a tough school to back down when they're provoked. They do for this because they've got the wristband and they're able to say, look, I'm trying to be a peacemaker. Don't make me lose my peace. So it gives them a way to stand up without backing down and still not lose their respect, their credibility, which is unbelievably powerful. And I've gotten to get close to some of the toughest guys in some of the toughest prisons. And once they begin to use their influence for peace, it's amazing how peace can come to a place, because we go after the bully, the leader, the tough kids. And once we have them buy in and say, look, if you could have easy time, wouldn't you rather do easy time? Yes. If you could go home and stay out of here, would you? Yes. Do you know when something is about to happen before it does? Yes. Do you have the power to stop it if you have a good reason to? Yes. Okay, put all those together. Let's create easy time, get you home sooner, stop the things that you have the power to stop, and let's all just have a better quality of life and get the hell out of here. Then all of them start looking around and saying, well, yeah, I want that, but what about him? What about him? And I'm like, well, let's all get together. 40 days, wear the band, do the journaling, get together, and let's see what happens. And 40 days later, they realize that for 40 days, their life has been better and they haven't lost any respect. They're willing to give it another round. We go to phase 2.
So I think what most people don't get is the empowering part and that connection and that bond. It's like, we also have to realize that everyone's coming from their shit, if you will, right? Everyone who's a bully, if we bother to really get to know them, and actually have a conversation with them and literally know that they're just attempting to push us away or afraid to have a closeness or connection, we can help get to the underneath parts so that we can actually get in there and actually create change. Yes. Nobody who's a bully or an abuser or, you know, a rapist or any of these people that are doing violent crimes, trust me, there is issues behind that. And I work with, you know, people that have been any sort of abuse, that is, okay, whether it be sexual, verbal, or physical. What I keep on telling them over and over and over again is you have to be willing to forgive not only yourself, the other person. Yourself, because, you know, there's all that guilt. I didn't scream loud enough. I didn't stop them. All these, you know, and then it's like, well, how can I forgive that person? They, you know, they did this to me. And so I have to retweak. So here's the reframe. And that's why I love psychology in the mind. It's such a brilliant thing. The reframe is, yes, you have to forgive yourself. And the reason why you have to forgive the other person, you do not, and here's the reframe part, you don't have to forgive the actual act, because the actual act of someone hitting you, raping you, is not ethical by any means. There isn't a, you know, wrong component, if you will. However, you do have to forgive the person, because you have to realize on some level, they've come in from something. They've been beaten, they've been raped, or whatever that is. We don't know exactly. You don't have to forgive the act. You do have to forgive the person. When I just put that little distinguishing piece in there, people are willing to do the work. But if I went to someone who had been abused and said, well, you have to forgive the other person, and they'd be like, hell no. They just massively disrespectful for me. And then if I did that, that would mean that I'm basically telling the universe that it's okay to beat or disrespect me. However, if you put that tweak in where it's like you still have to forgive yourself and the person, you don't have to forgive the actual, that piece of violence.
Oh, that's good.
Very different. So I think a lot of it is semantics, although that sounds petty, is the words that we use, how we talk to someone. Are we giving feedback or advice from a place that's punitive, or is it from a place that, you know what, I can empath. Your experience is going to be unique to mine. However, I can empath. I can connect. I can find a common ground with you on some level. Let's find that. Don't go in there saying, I know your pain, if you don't. Because you don't, unless you have been a person who's been in prison or you've been raped or whatever that the issue is, you can't understand. So don't say you can and go, oh, I'm so sorry. That does not work.
No, that's all very, very, very insightful and true. And what happened is I launched the first phase of this was built on, they're all built on 20th century peacemakers that changed the world. Gandhi, King, Mandela, Mother Teresa, and Albert Einstein, and now Maya Angelou, and Thich Nhat Hanh, and Dalai Lama, and Black Elk, and Malcolm, and, you know, different iconic peacemakers that they study their quotes, they journal about their lives, they write a paper. I mean, it's really, really cool stuff. And then they get together and do their discussions. But what I found was when I was working, especially with the young offenders, and whether it be in juvenile corrections or the young guys in adult facilities, or now the big work is schools and middle schools out in the free world, or juvenile correctional facilities where they're still young enough and haven't done the big thing to send them away forever, is they couldn't handle these steps. It was be a peacemaker wherever you go. Don't disrespect anybody. When provoked, do not retaliate. When cursed, do not curse back. Do not lie, cheat, or steal. When wrong, promptly admit it, make amends. Treat everybody with the respect you wish to be treated with. Those are all powerful. And the older convicts jumped on it and amazing miracles happened. The younger convicts said, man, bump that. I'm not even trying to do that. And that led me to develop the second phase, which goes to kind of what you were just talking about. Because think of these, if we can get a young guy from Cleveland who's sitting around in one gang, and this is real right now up in Cleveland, and the kids from Cincinnati and the kids from Cleveland hate each other and they war all the time. They're 17, 16, 18, they're in prison together. But here are the steps that they commit to begin with is one, I will seek first to understand my opponent. Okay. 2, I will find common ground with my adversary. 3, I'll walk a mile in the other man's shoes before I judge him. 4, I'll practice active listening and pause before responding. 5, I will practice compassionate communication. and use my influence for peace. 6, when wrong, I'll promptly admit it, quickly make amends. 7, I'll treat my enemies with dignity and respect, even when we disagree. So what I'm trying to do is get them to sit down for 6 weeks in a row and try to do that. Shut up, listen, try to put yourself in his shoes, find out where he's coming from before you make a judgment. And then if you do this honestly, you're going to figure out that a kid growing up in Cincinnati and a kid growing up in Cleveland really don't have a lot that's different. They just hate each other for no apparent reason. And we've had leaders come together at the celebration at the end, and one kid from Cleveland and one kid from Cincinnati in rival gangs, and they're both leaders, are arm in arm up there cutting up because they've become best friends in 40 days. And it's like all they had to do was do life together for 40 days and begin to understand he's just like me. He's got a grandmother at home, loves him. You know, he's got a neighborhood that he's used to. He's got, you know, I mean, we all are the same. You know, it's just, yeah. So I totally hear what you're saying.
So I'm looking forward to talking to you after this because I have some brilliant ideas that I want to work with you on. So a couple things. I don't like to make these really long because then, you know, we lose people. So I have a couple things I'd like you to do for me. One is, how can other people share with people how they can get involved in the project if they choose to? So where, and remember, this is also a podcast. So I also want you to say the website, spell it out so that, people that are listening don't have to pause to get
okay.
And then tell them, where they can find this book, how they can get involved, and what would you ask of people to do? Okay,
great. What's called the Power of Peace Project. And so anybody that wanted to find us, just Google Power of Peace or Power of Peace Project, you're going to find us. You can also just Google me, Kit Cummings. But the website is powerofpeaceproject.com, POWERPEACEPROJECT.com, powerofpeaceproject.com. Once you go there, there's a lot of different ways that you can get involved. Obviously, you can donate and help support the cause. We're a 501c3. We're totally, nonprofit. We rely on donations and support from communities. You can get the products there, whether it be the books, the DVDs, the pop gear. We have T-shirts and hats and socks and iPhone covers and earbuds and flashlights and water bottles, and all of them are Hope is the New Dope, which kids love. And so we encourage people to get involved. We have an app that we just developed, which is to take the 40-day challenge. You download the app, the Power Peace Project app, and it'll go live this week on Android, probably next week on iPhone. But that allows people to take the challenge right there on their mobile device. And then it's a great component for, we'll launch it in schools and have whole gyms download the app, and then we'll get the movement going that way. How they can help is I go where I'm invited. If a listener or someone that's watching this has a community, which is all of our communities that have kids at risk, and maybe there's a high school you're connected to that you're like, man, we want this there. We deal with kids that are involved in unhealthy social media, bullying, cyberbullying, alcohol and drug abuse, risky behavior, suicide, addiction, overdose, incarceration. I mean, our kids are at great risk. Heroin has become an epidemic in our schools, out in the suburbs, gated communities. It's unbelievable. But if you are connected to a school, your kid's out there, go to the website, invite me, and I will make a way to come to your school, and we can look into launching a program. The new book that's coming out is called Peace Behind the Wire. It's the most significant thing I've done to date. It releases August the 8th. Peace Behind the Wire, a nonviolent resolution. We have a radio show that we're launching July the 20th on Voice America Radio and World Talk Radio Network. It's going to be a 13-week series. It's going to deal with all these issues from, how we're losing our kids, how they're becoming more disengaged, distracted, we're losing them, and to human trafficking, we're going to deal with some real issues. Want to invite people you and I can connect maybe afterwards on how we might be able to support one another on that. So we have a lot going on. People are hungry for peace. People are scared. The media has scared everybody to death. And the events going on in Baltimore and Cleveland and Ferguson, and now who knows where it's going to be next. we've got to get the conversation going with these kids, and before the next one happens.
I agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. I look forward to exploring the next little project. I encourage everyone, please go check out Kit Cummings. And like you said, you can Google Kit Cummings, which is K-I-T, then C-U-M-M-I-N-G-S. He's all over the internet. Also encourage everyone to go to his website, and your lower third just disappeared. So say the website one more time.
powerofpeaceproject.com.
Okay, so I was about to say and I knew it wasn't in the website. So I don't want to confuse people. However, everybody knows I put together an amazing blog post that has the embedded podcast, it has the embedded video, it has all of Kit's information, all of his links, and you'll be able to find out everything that you need. As you know, I love to bring you more valuable resources and tools and incredible people. If you know of anyone you think that you'd like me to talk to, or you'd like to hear about a certain subject, please feel free to reach out to me at Carly, CarlyaThorne.com. I'm sorry, at gmail.com, because it's all going to bounce to me anyway. And you can always find me at CarlyLyssaThorne.com, CarlyLyssaThorne.com. People always ask me, why don't you get a shorter URL? Well, because I'm in the entertainment business as well, Carly Thorne is another actress. And so we were fighting for each other's SEO on Google. So the minute I put my middle name in there, it made it simple. She has all her stuff and I have all of mine. And it avoided a lot of confusion where parties were contacting other parties.
But yours is cooler. The three-name thing, Carly Alyssa Thorne, that sounds cooler than the other. I don't even know the other person. Who's that, man? I
can't wait to talk to you when we get off this. Yeah, everything trilogies. And it comes from Cat, by the way. All my friends call me Cat. And my birth initials, by the way, are SOS. And you wonder why I changed that.
Yeah, right?
Okay, so yeah, that's why I can understand all the subjects. I grew up with sexual, verbal, and physical abuse to another level. And with the initials of SOS, oh, trust me, baby, I wanted out of that.
Well, so think about how many things rhyme with Kit when you're a kid. There ain't a lot of good ones that rhyme with Kit. I got it all, man.
Anyways, I love you guys. I love bringing you valuable content. Kit, thank you so much for joining me. I wish everyone a marvelous day, and I look forward to connecting with you next week. Have a great one, everyone.